If you've got big dreams and bad genes, you are in the right place. Bromley shirts are available at barbellapparel.com. Link is in the description. Let's talk about that. Squatting. That just popped into my head. God damn
Yeah.
it. The 600 for 20. I don't think I've gotten as excited to watch a lift in like 10 years. I was getting like Ronnie in his prime throwback vibes. 20 reppers have a staple in lifting culture. I mean, squatting does in general, but you go back to super squats, anything that causes pain, nausea, vomiting, whatever people associate that with. So in addition to 1 rep max, it feels like a 20 repper has always been this thing that people have followed. And I remember hearing a long time ago, like, man, if you can hit 500 for 20, you're just cock strong. That's like world class, whatever. And I remember following people and some of the biggest things you've seen from the craziest squatters. And I always thought, like, can somebody pull off a 600 by 20? Is that a thing that can be done? And watching you do it, not only do it, but do it in like the most casual style. You like pulsed your first like 13 reps. It looked so comfortable. It looked like you had a 650 for 20. Was that something that you prepared for specifically, or do you just stay in that good a shape where it's like on a one-off you can kind of go throw that out?
So no. The so I have the longest torso on the planet and the shortest legs on the planet. So I'm built to squat. I understand that I'm squatting on easy mode, but for me, given that all of my strongman movements, if my squat is peaked, everything is peaked, right? And for me, with things like squatting or whatever, to actually get fatigue in the quads and build the quads, I never get that. I mean, during shop prep, I did my top set was like 750 by 8, and my mid back was what was sore. It wasn't my legs, right? Like I don't get leg stimulus just because of how I'm built, and like my legs, abductors, all that stuff has always been way ahead of my back and my hips and all that stuff. So this off season, we're coming into the Arnold Classic. There's things like the Wheel of Pain. There's maybe going to be a max overhead. There's all kinds of things that are going to require my quads and my legs to just be stronger than they are now. And my deadlift style that we've switched to, as my legs peak, my deadlift peaks. Somewhat obvious there, but everything's based around my squat. And this off season, we're like, okay, it's really hard to get stimulus out of your quads to really grow your quads. So we spent a whole off season doing pause 10s and 20s and 40 rep leg presses and Bulgarian split squats and stuff like that. And the culmination of all that at the end of it, like 8 to 12, I think it was like a 10 to 12 week phase, was that 600 by 20. And it's like, did we care if we would hit 600 by 20? No. We cared about growing the quads and getting the legs as much hypertrophy and as strong and as big as they've ever been. And we definitely did that. I mean, my squat is so much stronger than it was for shop prep. And, we did 10s and 20s to do it. So that's kind of a cool roundabout thing. I've never squatted over 800, funny enough. But if you asked me to squat 950 like 8 weeks from now, I wouldn't even be scared about it. Like we're building the squat base wide, and during the off season, like we just went wider. That set was exceptionally wide, Um,
And I always end up coming way back to like this, like, global view where everything gets super, super broad and all encompassing, because there's these like hard philosophical questions about training that nobody's really answered, but you can see people approaching it in different ways. So let's take that, for instance. You feel confident that staying so sub max and benefiting so much from reps and volume that you could actually prep and hit this really big single, even though we're talking about, loads that are 10, 15% above what you've ever hit. I'm reminded, like, Chad Wesley Smith, I think, was very similar. He would, and you see that in his programming, he would when he attempted his 990 squat, I think he said like his last squat in training was, less than 100 pounds below that. And it makes me wonder if, is that a byproduct of like your leverages because of the way you're built, how comfortable you are, that you have this in the tank and it doesn't require as much technical preparation and slowly kind of easing into these big weights, or if it is just a byproduct of having just such a big base from all this work that you have that much in reserve.
Well, okay, so to be completely fair, that statement of if I had to squat 950 in 8 weeks, in those 8 weeks, I would bridge the gap between 800 and 950. maybe that last squat is 890 or it's 900, and then on the day we trust that we have it. Um, but yeah, I think the more so the reason I'm so much into like that wide base building is how many strongmen know their max and everything. That's really stupid, especially as you get stronger, right? Like I don't know my max in a lot of things, or I can make safe assumptions that it's higher than what I know, and but they want to find out all the time, and that urge to find out is ruining your training, right? Like I have no, I'm not eager to find out. I'm just eager to, is my 20 rep going up? Is my 10 rep going up? Is my 8 rep going up? Is my, maybe I did the same weight on this, front squat progression we do, but I paused it better, paused it longer, right? Like there's so many ways to like, aside from that maximal number going up. And I think especially with guys being as competitive as we are, we love that maximal number. And it's just like when you start to love all of the other, mobility, range of motion, all those things getting better, you can say things like my max has gone up, I just haven't done it. And I will hit it and I can call my shot and do it. But it's just like people won't step back for like 18 months. There's so many strong. You see it. My main one that I harp on is like overhead. If guys took like 18 months to step back and rebuild their technique and their like training system around overhead, they'd kill me. But they're not gonna. So like there's
It's
tons of
like
guys that are way more powerful than me.
ever find yourself confused by the complexity of programming? I know I struggled like crazy in my early strongman career. There was just too much advice, and every decision I made felt like a guess. As soon as I hit a snag in any program, I would have no idea what to do, so I would inevitably bail. It took me years of training and coaching to figure out how to predictably increase muscle and strength, both in myself and others. And those lessons took me to my own showings in World's Strongest Man, America's Strongest Man, and the Arnold in the 231-pound weight class. This is why we made Base Strength AI, to give clear, direct, and personalized instruction right in the middle of your workout in real time. Base Strength AI features 3 programs: Block, 70s Powerlifter, and Bullmastiff, each one inspired by the work ethic and programming of the biggest and strongest bodybuilders, powerlifters, and strongmen throughout history. These templates originated in my book Base Strength, and they can be ran as is, but with Base Strength AI, weight and volume are prescribed to you on your specific feedback. And that's personalization that even an online coach can't replicate. This gives you the absolute certainty that every rep is meaningful, that every block of training is getting you closer to your goals. It's my programming, but it's your program. Get the heart of old school training with the intelligence of a coach right in your back pocket. Head now to basestrength.com. Well, I saw you throw that
There's a couple.
550 by the neck, so you're being a little humble here, but
Yeah.
no, but I understand what you mean. I mean, there's like there's guys that are very explosive that have the ability to funnel that immense power, but it's like, okay, will they do everything they need to?
Mm-hmm.
Geez, so it's like Goodhart's law, if I said that correctly. When something is held up as the metric by which you assign value, it suddenly becomes a shitty metric because everybody starts focusing on that for the sake of it. And you start losing other important things that you kind of took for granted, assuming would just be part of it. So everybody, and I think it goes back to the way that people start training. People start training by maxing their deadlift weekly. Oh, I got stronger. You get the guys that survive that, and that's all they know. Next thing you know, that they're getting ready for a big pro-am or to get their pro card or something, and everything is just heavy, heavy, heavy all the way up. And as you start to chase that, everything that you associated with that kind of falls to the wayside. So it really is a skill to be able to understand all the other gears that kind of move around and influence that, and also have the presence of mind, the patience, the foresight to be able to stay away and focus on those things, trusting that it'll pay off. But it's like there's so many steps in between that base building. I mean, I see how people get anxious or scared. Like if I'm going to stay in this realm over here, it's like, God, I'm going to lose. I'm going to have to like recondition to the weight, or it's going to feel heavier. I'm not really getting stronger. It's not specific. And one of the reasons I'm really excited about this conversation is it seems to throw a little bit of dirt in the eye in the obsessive hyper specialization that seems to be, and it's not just the common man doing it. It seems to be reiterated in a lot of more like higher brow platforms where
Mm.
people feel like, well, if I'm not doing singles, doubles, triples, whatever, if I'm not 85% up, if I'm not doing this, that, or the other thing, that I'm going to be losing a step. And in reality, it's like you
Mm.
do have so much room. In fact, you're best off if you are avoiding the thing that seems obvious to get to that next
Yeah.
step.
Yeah. And another perspective, not just on the lifts, but it somewhat speaks to the pacing of my career as well. People are frustrated with their rate of progression because they pick a show, and then there's this artificial 10 to 12 week window between you and the show, and they think I have to reach these numbers by this show. But if they just had someone in their ear saying the real finish line is 2 years post that show, you're only frustrated because a promoter said that you need to deadlift 650 for reps 8 weeks from now. But like, you're totally capable of deadlifting 650 reps 6 months from now, and that's a completely fine, awesome rate of progression if you just broke it down by percentage or like what's normal, where you're at in your career. But all these guys competing all the time, and especially I think the men compete too high. There's guys that are like really good amateurs that would maybe get 10 to 15th at amateur nationals going to Shaw Open. For what? Of
Yeah.
course you feel like you suck and you're out of time. You're at a show that's 2 years too far ahead of you. Go to amateur nationals, get 15th, learn from it. Go next year, get 5th. Go the next year, win, and then go to Shaw Amateur. If you're not 100% sure that you could call your shot at like an amateur nationals, like I'm going to win with events that aren't great for me, you're not ready to win the Shaw Amateur or the Arnold Amateur or OSG, because let's say on some freak chance you get through, you're screwed. Like, if you can't for sure win amateur nationals, good luck at strongest man on earth.